Are you new to the wizarding world that is DaVinci Resolve? Are you fresh through the gates of Hogwarts not knowing anything at all about how to edit and make videos? Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you the basics to DaVinci Resolve.
Nice.
From its layout to keyboard settings and general information. My name's Dan, and you're watching DanVinci. Let's jump into it. Alright then, so let's jump into DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so the first chapter of this video is about layout. Now, DaVinci Resolve does have custom layouts, and it does have various ways that you can tweak things, but it's not as customizable as Adobe, let's say. Although I think it is more customizable than Final Cut. It's been a long time since I've used Final Cut, so do let me know down below. So when you open DaVinci Resolve, you're greeted with this page. Now, you might be greeted with a slightly different page. Down at the bottom, there are 7 different key tabs. Now, the idea behind this is that there is 7 different stages in your editing process. So the first tab you have is the media tab. Now the media tab is primarily a way of you sorting out the files that you're going to use for your project, importing files, removing files, and everything in between. The cut tab is really what it says on the tin. It's the cut tab. You cut things. The edit tab is where you make editing changes. I like to use the edit tab the most. I think it's possibly the most important tab out of all of them. The fusion tab is where you do your node tree editing. So things like graphics you create in this tab, or 3D effects, tracking, all of that jazz. Now the color tab. The color tab is, well, again, what it says on the tin. It is basically where you make your color grades. It does take quite a while to master the color tab. DaVinci Resolve is one of those softwares where you're probably never going to feel like you know everything. Maybe somewhere out there is a man that knows everything about DaVinci Resolve.
Hello there.
But until that day, unfortunately, you're going to have to stick with me. Yeah. Then we have the Fairlight tab. It's the audio editing. You can make various changes to pitch. You can remove hisses, for example, in microphones. And then of course we have the Deliver tab, which is a rocket. Don't know why it's a rocket, but your project is taking off. But as you can see, we have the information here, the settings, and the different formats and codecs that we want to, well, render a video in. Okay, so that's the basic 7 tabs. Now, jump over to the Edit tab, and I'm going to show you the basic layout of the Edit tab. If I covered every tab, this video would be well over an hour. Once you understand the Edit tab, well, you can use your common sense to apply that logic across all the other tabs, really. Maybe not the Fusion tab. The Fusion tab is a bit of a special one. All right, so let's jump into the layout of the Edit tab. At the top, you'll see tabs. These tabs here, they'll light up a little bit when you hover over them. And then obviously we've got the edit tab and we've got the media pool. Now the media pool is, well, it's your file explorer really. And this is where you're going to keep your footage. Now, obviously yours is going to look a little bit different to mine. I've got some presets saved, so like footage, other, renders and tutorial footage just for my videos. But in your case, it probably won't have anything in it. Obviously we have the effects at the bottom here and we can scroll through and we have effects, which is this button here. All right, so that's the left of DaVinci Resolve in the edit tab. What about in the center here? So the center here is, well, the timeline. Now, if you have any experience in editing at all in any program, this will look fairly familiar to you. As you can see, we have a firm line here separating the video side and the audio side. So when you drag a piece of footage down into the timeline, the audio and the video will be dragged in sync, and you'll be able to see that clip in a space, which is your timeline. At the top here, we have our timeline window. Now, you can actually open up a preview window like this in the top corner here. If you click this, it'll open the preview window. So you can view, if your screen is big enough or you prefer this layout, you can have your preview window. Now, what's the preview window? Double click on the footage in the media pool and it will show up in the preview window, and then you can scrub through it and just see what you're looking at. On the right of the frame, at the top right, we have the inspector tab. Now, the inspector tab really is your friend. When in doubt, check the inspector tab. When you apply any effect to the clip, check the inspector tab, because the inspector tab is effectively your settings controls for any clip on the timeline. We will be using this in a second. Don't forget the inspector tab. Now, on your first boot up in DaVinci Resolve, I believe from memory, back in the day when I first opened it, that you can select a series of presets. It presents you Premiere Pro, Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve defaults. But what if you want to make some subtle changes and customize it to your own liking? If you're comfortable with the defaults, that's fine. But it's very, very important that you know this. So in the top right corner, go over to DaVinci Resolve, click on this and go down to keyboard customization. And from here, you can select anything at all and customize it to your own liking. But for example, let's make a quick change. So let's click on H and try and add something to H. So let's say we want to make H delete in the Fairlight tab. As you can see here, we got Fairlight timeline and delete hasn't got anything applied to it. So if we click on it here and click H, it'll apply that now. And once we click save, H is now delete in the Fairlight tab. It's relatively simple. And then all you need to do to export your own personal preset, go to the 3 dots here and click export preset. That simple. All right, so the next part is actually importing footage and, well, basically editing. Let's do this. All right then, so there are so many different ways that you can actually import your footage into DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to be showing you what I think is possibly the the most simplest way so that I don't boggle your minds and you're not too overwhelmed. It did overwhelm me when I started. As you can see, I've got my file explorer and I have many clips of stuff from a recent trip that I had. Just drag and drop. Drag this, and I'm going to drag this over to footage here with the media pool open, and boom, it's in. That's simple. That's so simple, man. It's so cool. And then, like I said earlier, with the preview, you can just double click on this and it will show up in the preview tab without actually going into the actual timeline. Amazing. How do we get some footage into the timeline? Now, of course, you can just drag and drop just like before, drag the footage down, and it will drag the entire footage into the timeline. But I want to be a bit more precise than this. In the preview window of the footage that you have selected, find a point in the timeline where you want the footage to begin, where you want the clip to start, effectively. Then using the shortcuts that you have, in my case it's I and O for the in and out points. It might be the same for you if you selected the Premiere Pro presets for DaVinci Resolve. So I'm going to click I to create an in point, and then I'm going to scroll across like this, and then find the out point. Like that, and then drag this down. Now that clip in the timeline is precisely this part in the preview window. If in your timeline your footage looks like this, you can easily stretch the video clips just like so and make the footage way more easy to view. Now a top tip that I find is that you can actually change the different video viewing options. Now I find that this mode here is the most labor intensive and this here is the least labor intensive for your computer. The reason being is I think the CPU is trying to load preview window like thumbnails on the timeline, and when obviously you have a massive timeline and if you have a slow computer, having it populate the entire timeline with frames like this, it does actually slow things down a little bit. So I find this one here basically the best middle ground. You can also customize the video height here as well. So if you want to customize all the video heights in an equal fashion, you can do that. Same with the audio, like so. If you want the clip to be a certain color, right click on the clip, clip color. So I'm going to change it to beige because I'm that exciting. Now I have another clip of myself. I'm going to click the in and I'm going to drag out all the way, and I click the out and I'm going to drag that down just like so. Now if we buffer these up to each other, you might notice they stick like so. Now if they don't stick, that's because you don't have the magnet tool activated. Just click on the magnet tool and effectively it will stick together. If you don't have this on and you drag it close, it will just start eating into the other clip. It's a great way of just making sure that there isn't just like a random black frame where there's just nothing, like so. You know, something like that is really annoying in editing, and the magnet tool is there to basically remove this. The link tool is really useful. Let's say you have two clips that are linked together. So I'm going to right click these and click link clips. So these two clips now have a link symbol like that. With this activated, if you select one of them, it will select the other and you can drag them both around. Now this is useful if you have, let's say, a shot with audio. Instead of every time clicking the video and the audio, you can click the linked selection tool and just select the video clip and then the audio will come with it. This saves you bags of time. You can also unlink clips by simply selecting the linked clips and right clicking and clicking linked clips like that, and it will deselect them. Now in the top right corner here, the inspector tab has filled in with settings. Now the inspector tab has by default various controls: the transform, the cropping, the dynamic zoom, the composite, the speed change, stabilization, lens correction, retime, and scaling. Now there is a lot there and I'm not going to cover it in this video. I am planning on doing more of these basics to DaVinci Resolve, so this will be some kind of series. When I do another one, who knows, it will be a great mystery. So you can click on the clip here, put your cursor over the clip that you want to see in the main video window like this, and go over to the transform controls and you can just zoom in like so. Wow. And you can see zoom in all the way, and then the position Y, X and Y, you can drag that up. But you can click this button here and that will reset all the settings back to 0, back to defaults, if let's say you mess up like I just did. Now let's add a simple transition. So let's go into video transitions. I'm just going to add a simple cross dissolve and drag that over like so, and you'll see this little white square. If you drag this over the join between the two clips, it will apply like so, and then if you click play, you've created a simple cross dissolve transition. Now if you click on the cross dissolve in the inspector tab, you can customize this quite easily. Now unfortunately I'm going to have to end it there when it comes to this video. There is so much in DaVinci Resolve and I really have not scratched the surface. Now I have made loads of other videos. Do feel free to go check those ones out where I cover various different topics and various different things. I will be making more of these basic tutorials, so do subscribe to see more of those. But otherwise I want to say a huge thank you for all the support, and I'm really looking forward to the future of this channel. It really is exciting. My name's Dan, you've watched DanVinci, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.